lived, John F. Kennedy is clearly a transforming president, right? I mean, we've had this conversation all year. Transition presidents, Polk, Zachary Taylor, Rutherford B. Hayes, people like that, okay? William Howard Taft, maybe, potentially, maybe Truman, but probably not. Most of those major presidents have been transforming presidents. But guys like Reagan, Washington, Lincoln, Kennedy, FDR, Teddy Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, people that fundamentally shaped the country that they and the times in which they lived, I would argue, are definitely transforming presidents, and John F. Kennedy fits that bill. John F. Kennedy was transforming, in my opinion, for three reasons. Number one, his ability to communicate with the American people was something that we haven't really seen since. It's the first time that people heard a president use the words hope and sacrifice without thinking, yeah, right, it's a political thing. And okay, maybe it was politics with Kennedy too, but people believed it. People believed that Kennedy was for them. In fact, I remember right after he was assassinated watching a documentary, and this guy that lived in the mountains of Virginia said he made all the little people in this country feel like they were big people, which was fascinating given that he's a wealthy guy from Massachusetts. He's not like you and me. He lives a different life than we live, but people felt like he cared about them, and that's a unique trait to have as a president. The second reason that I think he was transforming was because of the way that he approached foreign policy. For the first time in a long time, we didn't have a president that was a warmonger. He had lived through war. He had experienced it firsthand. He'd been wrecked, shipped, his PT boat got cut in half by a Japanese destroyer, ruined his back. He swam to shore, saved these soldiers, and experienced what life was like on this island for days before they got rescued. So I think he understood the gravity and the consequences of war. And we had something in 1963 we didn't have in 1941 or 42 or 43 or 44, and that was nuclear weapons. He was determined to keep nuclear weapons and keep nuclear war from happening. And you can talk about the Cuban Missile Crisis, in lots of different ways. And you can argue, he gave the Soviets too much. He gave away the store because you got to take a hard line with them and show them who's boss. But I think Kennedy did, just in his own way. It was his way of saying, look, if we have a nuclear exchange, millions of people are going to be killed. Let's not do this to our countries. And I think that worked, and that worked well, and he deserves credit for his approach to foreign policy. He did sign a nuclear test ban treaty. He had started forging a real relationship with the Soviet Union, and I think you would have seen probably the Cold War come to an end long before it did, had John F. Kennedy survived to have a second term. The third reason I think he's transforming is because of his evolving stance on civil rights. He's like you and me. He's wrong about something, he learns the facts, and then he changes his opinion based on those facts. That's not political, that's smart. That's what you want in a president. He's the epitome of what you want a president to be. Two events, I think, changed his stance on civil rights. One was James Meredith getting admitted to University of Mississippi, which you'll look at today in class. And then the other one was the Freedom Ride, which we'll get to in the next chapter, and we'll really talk about how he kind of intervened in that later than he should have, but he still took a hard stance. And by the time he's killed in November of '63, he's very much in favor of civil rights. He was concerned about it initially. It was a politic thing. I mean, it was a political thing. He's a politician like everybody else. He wants to win the dang election. Because if you don't win, you're nothing. And he wanted to win, and he was concerned that he wouldn't with the South on civil rights. But John F. Kennedy is a fascinating character and somebody that I wish I could spend weeks on because he's really valuable to the country, and he really shaped the times in which we lived. I mean, he sent the first troops into Vietnam. He founded the Peace Corps. He, kind of embraced this counterculture element of American life. He really fundamentally changed the 1960s and deserves credit for that, not just being a style politician that could give a lofty speech. He could do those things, but I think he was very substantive, very direct, and really changed the country in a way that we haven't seen since. This is Mr. Barr. That's my opinion. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.